Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Rangers Review Monday morning briefing, where it's myself, Derek Clark, flying solo, much like Rangers squad in the first half of the season were decimated with injury and what have you. But we'll look back on yesterday's match against Partick Thistle. Lots of talking points, of course. If you want to get your points across, then please fire them in the comments and I'll get to as many of them as possible. Of course, there is plenty to talk about after what was quite a bizarre Scottish Cup fifth round clash yesterday. The Ibrox, of course, Rangers triumphing by 3-2, but not without incident, of course. Before we do that, just a bit of housekeeping. As ever, you can see the banner on your screen. If you want to subscribe to our YouTube channel, almost 11,500 of you have signed up to that. So thank you very much for doing so. It's free, won't cost you a penny, and it supports the work we do here at the channel. And you can see the little ticker below. We've got a fantastic offer on just now, a giveaway. You can win 2 tickets to the League Cup final. All you have to do is sign up to our website, head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe. Just £1 to be in with a chance of winning those 2 tickets to Hampden later on this month for that Old Firm Cup final. A cracking giveaway we've got on just now. And a quick word as well for our sponsors, Seneca Hair Restoration. You can see their image on the screen if you're watching us on social media. They are the #1 hair transplant corporation in Europe due to its elite hair restoration services and innovation techniques. To date, they've treated over 43,000 hairless sufferers, as they like to call it. Their mission is a simple one: to change people's lives and restore their lost self-confidence. And as ever, I've stuck all the links to their social media channels and their website in the description box. Right, let's talk football, folks. Lots of comments coming in already. I'm on my Todd here, so it might take a wee while to get to a few of them, but please bear with. Right, let's talk about yesterday. Of course, Rangers progressing to the next round, to the last 8 of the Scottish Cup, after defeating Ian McCall's, formerly Ian McCall's Partick Thistle by 3-2. Michael Beale made a number of changes to the starting 11 for the game. I think the most notable surprise, certainly for me, was seeing James Sands return to the starting 11, but there was starts for Yanis Hadji and Nicholas Raskin came in. We'll talk about him a little later on, and Antonio Cholak was given a nod up front for Rangers. So a fair number of changes in the starting 11. However, looked very much disjointed Rangers side in that first 45. Didn't really threaten the Partick Thistle goal in any way, shape or form. And it was in fact Thistle, of course, that took the lead, courtesy of a penalty, a VAR decision. Antonio Cholak judged to have handballed, been handballed in the box. The referee, of course, went to VAR. There was a lengthy look, and he decided to point to the spot. As Al C says, a penalty decision, a disgrace. Listen, it's one of those ones, isn't it? I think that there's a little bit of dubiety around it, a bit of confusion around what constitutes a handball these days in the penalty box. And it was a fair lengthy check at VAR before the decision was given. And the boy just sent McGregor away the wrong way and scored. It was a decent penalty, you've got to say. But Rangers weren't at the races in that first half. Michael Beale, of course, made that double substitution at half-time. Roof and Kent coming on, of course. Cantwell and Kamara being replaced. What did you think of Todd Cantwell? Let us know in the comments. In that first half in general, it was a bit disjointed. Of course, Yanis Hadji was another one. He has been out for a long period of time. He just looked a bit off the pace. It's no surprise given the lengthy layoff that he's had, but I think it's going to take him a bit of time to get up to speed in a Rangers jersey again. Let's get to a few of the comments before we crack on, folks. Let's see here. Lots of comments, of course, about the incident. We will get on to talk about a little later on. But in terms of that penalty, Mark Height says VAR up and down the country is a joke. Yeah, you're absolutely spot on. It's not only Scotland, of course, down south. We've seen a ridiculous decision in the Arsenal-Brentford game They didn't check it properly. So it's not just Scotland that the VAR decisions are being debated at great length. Dave Fulton gets in touch. Morning, Dave. Neither calls or penalties. The EPL's bad VAR weekend spilled over to Scotland. Yeah, it certainly did. And another thing on VAR, just before we move on, it's... we talk about trying to increase the profile of the game and make people sit up and take notice of it worldwide more often than not, and not look down at Scottish football. The fact that VAR was only in use for a certain amount of games, I think 2 matches was it this weekend. Some clubs could decide that they didn't want to use it if they didn't want to pay the money. For me, it's totally tin pot that the Scottish governing body really should look at that because it doesn't make any sense whatsoever to have VAR in operation for some matches and not the others in a national cup competition. It really is. It's a shocker for me, and something needs to be done about it. We can't have that prolonging any more than what it has to. David Brown says never a penalty. In fact, the two of them weren't. Of course, Tavernier missing his penalty spot kick in the second half, midway through that second half. That was after, of course, Antonio Cholak had equalised for Rangers. It was a much improved second half, it's fair to say. Nicholas Raskin, who was impressive on his debut. I thought he was really good. Good to see he sorted it. The sock situation as well. I don't think supporters can have too many complaints for that, that's for sure. And fantastic bit of control in the box and great pick out the Croatian at the back post. His header, perhaps the Thistle goalkeeper could have done a bit better, but that's what you get with Cholak. He's a predator in and around that area, although it's fair to say he didn't really do much else apart from that. But he got his goal. It was good to see him getting back on the score sheet yesterday. But Raskin was instrumental in creating that opportunity. And throughout the game, I thought he really was a class act. I think Rangers are going to have a lot of joy with him in the engine room. It's great to see just a fresh face, I think, in the middle of the park as well. And he certainly looked the part yesterday. Let's get to a few more of the comments coming in. Just touching on the VAR. Yeah, Stephen Cochrane gets in touch. It's the same in the FA Cup in England. Yeah, you're right, actually, Stephen. Yep. But for me, they shouldn't have. Clubs shouldn't have a say. I think that the governing body should step in and perhaps pay for it for the technology. Who knows? I don't know what the answer is, but I don't think it's a good look. Let's get to one or two that are coming in here. Maka says, morning all. Too many changes or not, we should be doing a lot better at home. Totally agree. That's 2 matches now. I mean, match against Ross County wasn't entirely scintillating either, was it, in the league prior to this one? Maybe slightly concerning that it was a full week. Rangers never had any midweek fixtures to concern themselves with. And that's 2 off-par performances. Of course, they're still getting the victories, there's no doubt about it. But since Tynecastle, the performances certainly haven't reached that standard. I think they set the bar, Rangers, at Tynecastle. That was a best performance for me, not only of the season domestically, but for certainly some time. And I think, well, they've certainly not hit that bar, not get anywhere near it in the last 2 games. Let's get... James Skeen says, home form not as good as away form. That's an interesting point, James. Let us say that the Ross County game, as I mentioned recently, I think Rangers may have a problem with teams that just sit in. I think Michael Beale touched on that after Tynecastle, where not every game is like that. He prefers those matches where they go away from home and teams have to open up being at home and try and take the game to Rangers, and it suits them better. Perhaps he's not really found that ideal solution yet to break down those banks of 4 or banks of 5 at times that they need to do at home. And I don't criticise teams for doing that. I think I would do it myself if I was Ian McCall yesterday or any other opposition manager. I think I'd be looking to shop when I go to Ibrox, given the talent on display at Rangers. So they're going to have to find a solution to it. But yeah, not the most scintillating to watch, that's for sure. Rangers on Tour gets in touch. Morning, buddy. When teams sit in, we need to start taking shots from distance. It's a fair point. It's a fair point that he makes there. Craig Andrews says first half was poor, the usual suspects. Listen, I think the first half was really poor. A quick mention as well for the Thistle fans, incidentally, who They brought the supporters over in numbers yesterday. It was great to see. I mean, a lower league club bringing that sort of fan base over. I think we'll see a bigger or a more vocal support to at all this season, apart from when Thistle brought their supporters over. So yeah, fair play to them all. And I guess it moves on to a wider discussion, perhaps, of it's a debate that's raged on for years upon years. Should they increase the league, expand the league? If you're getting atmospheres like that, certainly is a discussion for another day, I think. Right, let's get to some more of the comments here. Mark says, can we all agree? Great to have the all-inclusive Derek back. Thanks very much, Mark, for your kind comments. And as Aldo says, morning Del Solo today. I am Aldo. I certainly am. Johnny and Joshua not available this morning, unfortunately. So flying solo for the team. So that's it. Get your comments over, folks. I'll try to get to as many as possible. Positive Vibe says, morning, Dad. Hope you enjoyed your break. I think we could all do with one after yesterday. Yeah, listen, not the best to watch, wasn't it? I mean, progression in the cup is all that matters. But I think we just want to see a bit more, especially at Ibrox. Like I said, they've had that full week to prepare. Lots of players given an opportunity to impress yesterday, and many of them didn't. Although, as I mentioned earlier on, Hadji, I think it's going to take him a little bit of time just to get back up to speed with the pace of the game more than anything else. Right, let's get to the talking point then, the big talking point. Malik Tillman's goal, Partick Thistle, the ball was knocked out of play. It had actually been fouled heavily. Bad foul on him just prior to that. Cholak went down. Rangers knocked the ball out of play, and Thistle were, due to, well, the old gentleman's agreement, I guess, knock the ball back to Rangers to get on with the game. They take the throw in. The boy has a heavy touch, of course. Malik Tillman, unaware of what's going on, nips in, runs up the park, and it was a good finish, I've got to say, and puts the ball in the back of the net, much to the frustration and the anger of the Thistle players and supporters and coaching staff on the touchline. The goal stood, though. It was the goal certainly stands. However, Michael Beale instructed the Rangers players to allow Thistle to score a goal unaided, just to level up again. He felt that Malik was unaware of the situation. He didn't want to win a game that way. Let's get to actually what Michael Beale did have to say in his post-match interview with regards to that controversy when he did allow Thistle to score unaided. He said, where did he say it here? Let's see. Yes, he said, listen, there was a massive misunderstanding in the whole thing. Malik gets injured. He is a boy that is injured. And the ball goes out of play. He doesn't see it's been kicked out for a throw-in. So naturally, when he stands up, he thinks he's got to press a throw-in. That's the instruction he is usually given. He hasn't seen the ball has been kicked out and that Partick are going to kick it back to us. We scored off it. It's controversial, but this football club is built on high standards and we want the best for the game. And I didn't think it was right and just that we would win a game of football like that, not at home, not against Partick Thistle, not against anybody in the cup. I made a lot of mistakes today in terms of maybe team selection, but that wasn't one of the mistakes I made. That was the right thing to do for football in general and certainly to uphold the standards of this football club. If you watch it back, it was a big misunderstanding when Malik has got fouled. He doesn't see what has happened. He actually sort of looks around and puts his arm up in the air and then goes and presses the ball. So he's unaware, and I don't want it hanging around his head, which would be unfair to him. And I don't want to win a game in that way. It's an interesting one. It's fair to say it sparked a bit of division amongst some quarters of the support. Lots of boos were ringing out and Tiffany was allowed to run through on goal. Got to say, found it hilarious when Alan McGregor was half-heartedly trying to prevent the goal from going in. You can tell it must have infuriated him to allow that decision and that goal to be scored against him. However, listening to Michael Beale following the game, I'm backing the manager in this one. Of course, it's easy saying that now that Rangers have won the game and went on and won it. I think it might have been a different scenario had Thistle went on and won themselves. But listen, what did you make of it? And let us know in the comments. I'll get to a few of them. Understand it's maybe a bit mixed in terms of the viewpoints here. Denzel says stamp on Malik was subsequent. I saw after he scores, I'd been overshadowed by the opposition goal. Where was VAR? Listen, it was a bad challenge on him. There wasn't a VAR check on that. Nigel Rumsey says, manager made the correct decision and I back him. Listen, I think that I certainly agree with you with regards to that, Nigel. I think that was the right thing to do. At the point on, he doesn't want that over Malik's head. I think I agree with as well. You don't want carrying that baggage around with him. Let's get to one or two more comments that are coming in. Positive Vibe says, I watched it back, not convinced we're going to pass it back. Tillman did the right thing for me. Listen, I don't... Tillman, listen, Michael Beale says he was unaware what was going on, but I thought that the finish and the run forward, in fact, his whole performance yesterday was sublime once again. He really is a top talent. And I think he's won over the majority. I'd be staggered if there are any Rangers fans out there that are still unsure about whether signing this boy on a permanent deal. He really is absolutely fantastic. Let's see, Rangers on 2-0, the Thistle keeper or defender sees a red card for the reaction to Tillman scoring. Yeah, it was angry to say the least, wasn't it? It was all spilling over just after he put the ball in the back of the net. Right, let's get to one, two more of the comments. Apologies, folks, if I'm just trying to read these in here. I'll get to a few of them as poor as possible. Jordan Mack says, Thistle player took a poor touch and lost control. I'm sorry, but Malik didn't do anything wrong. He was getting booted about the park by them all, is what he says there. Let's see. Malky McClellan says the referee was terrible. Not the first time we've heard that this season, Malky. And David Brown says, Alan McGregor should have saved the walking goal. He doesn't care what anyone would think or say. Yeah, absolutely. It would have been quite funny in the ground if not entirely sure Michael Beale would be best pleased, right enough. But listen, Brian Moore says, I was against it at first, but the dust has settled. I'm fully backing Beale. I agree, Brian. I think it was a listen, it's a big call to make from him as well. You heard that the booing ringing out when Tiffany was allowed to run through and score. Big call to make on his shoulders. I know he's had a fantastic start to life as Rangers manager, unbeaten still, but that is certainly a decision, especially on social media. I was reading a few wild comments last night with regards to the decision to allow that goal to go in. But listen, I agree with the manager's point. I think it's a touch of class, really. And Ian McCall, I thought his comments after the game, and incidentally, we'll touch on Ian McCall, of course, no longer the Partick Thistle manager, but he did touch on it as well. He hailed the gesture, a bit of class from a former Ranger player as well. He said, from my point of view, Malik Tillman didn't really realise what was going on. I don't blame the referee because I'm not sure he can stop it. Maybe he can. I'm not sure what the rules are, but I'm not sure he realised what was going on. We were just about to kick it back. Then Mick made the decision, which I think reflects really well on him and this football club. And he said, Alan McGregor, I thought at one point wasn't going to let him put it in the net. Then it was game on after that. I had no ill feeling towards Malik Tillman whatsoever. Not sure he really realised what he was doing. More disappointed on the third goal. I've been in football since 1981 and I've never seen anything like that before. I think I'd have done it, if I'm being honest, it would have been interesting to see what would have happened if we had won 3-2, but he made a decision and I think it was the right one. I think sometimes a bit of class is going out of football, but he showed it. Yeah, spot on from Ian McCall there. And yeah, touching on McCall, of course, dismissed later on that evening from his manager's job at Partick Thistle. It really was a strange one. It's fair to say Thistle announced it late last night. A club statement says, McCall, just sorry if I'm going on about Partick Thistle, folks, but it says that they've been relieved of their duties in relation to the first team with immediate effect, as the club would like to place on record as a sincere appreciation to all three of their contributions to Partick Thistle over many years. Certainly is a strange one if you're a lower league side coming up against Rangers and running them close and then getting sacked after it. It seems incredibly harsh, but who are we to say what's going on in the Partick Thistle boardroom and how they see their club moving forward? But yeah, that certainly was a bit of a shocker last night. Right, let's get to one or two of the more of the comments coming in here. Yeah, LC says... only Thistle could sack a manager an hour after a game like that. They are a weird bunch, he says. It certainly was a surprising decision. I think I'm not alone in saying that. Just touching on Tillman, lots of comments coming in with regards to it. Paul McGregor says, we need to buy Tillman or someone else will benefit. Totally agree, Paul. For me, it's enjoy him while he can. If Rangers can get a deal agreed with Bayern Munich, then happy days. Even if they do that, I think his future lies out with Glasgow and Ibrox. If he can keep him for hopefully another season at least, then I think that may be that. I think he's destined for bigger and better things. If he keeps progressing the way he is, we have to remember this is his first full season in senior football, and he's playing like the way he is. Michael Beale certainly has unlocked something in him, and he just looks imperious on the football pitch. And for someone at such a young age, I think that his future is certainly bright going forward. So it's certainly one of those, just to enjoy him while you can. Right, let's get to a few more before we wrap up. Just on the Tav penalty, Aldo says Tav missing that penalty was woeful. Worst penalty I've ever seen. Yeah, just failed to hit any of the corners, isn't it? It wasn't his best of penalties. I'm sure he'll hold his hand up and say likewise. In fact, he did touch on, he was interviewed by Viaplay after the game, and he says they didn't hit their standards today, and it's spot on. Rangers well off it yesterday, and likewise, as we touched on earlier on, I think Ross County getting over the line, of course, which is great, but improvement needed in terms of performance. Wanted to touch on this point. Interesting one from Maka. He says, thought Raskin was superb, Derek. Shades of Barry Ferguson there. Totally agree. Actually, I was thinking this. I think that it's almost, he reminds me a bit of a Barry Ferguson and Reno Gattuso hybrid even. He's short in stature, but the way he just glides around the pitch, orchestrating things in a deep lying position, making forward-thinking passes. I thought his control yesterday was superb at times, his close control. He's got that sort of touch like glue with the boot and the ball as well. I think the Rangers supporters are going to enjoy watching this boy in action. Really impressed with him. And LC says Raskin's ability to drive forward with the ball was excellent, like a young Davis or Fergie. Yeah, top player. I think a great bit of business, Rangers, for bringing him in from Standard Liège. And DC says Barry never passed the ball forward, nothing like Raskin. Yeah, he's always forward thinking, isn't he? That's what sort of struck out for me. He's always looking to make that forward pass, and how we've missed someone that's capable of doing that. So, as I mentioned at the top of the programme, I think Rangers, everyone is in agreement. The midfield needs reinvigorated, and if we're bringing in players of supreme quality like this boy, then surely the future is a bright one. Right, let's get to a few more before we wrap up. Of course, Rangers progressing to the next round, which is the main thing, I guess, in cup competitions. But listen, the performance far and away not what we expect. Let me get to a few more of the comments from Michael Beale in that post-match press conference, folks. He was asked about the penalty given against Antonio Cholak following the VAR check. He says, listen, it's a ruling. The officials are only going by that. I think that is a harsh penalty, but it is the ruling, and maybe we need to look at that. But I don't want to go back and forth about VAR, because at the moment it's too much in the air, and I'd rather concentrate on the football that happens on the pitch. And of course, he was asked about those two changes he made at half-time and whether they sparked his side into life. He says it did. You give the opportunities, and maybe I disrupted the team a little bit too much today. I believe in the strength of the squad. Opportunities are there to be taken, and the team is a vehicle. I didn't think we were very good first half, so there was nothing against Todd and Giannis coming off, but obviously Kamar and Ryan Kent give us a bit more of a threat in behind, and that's what we needed second half. Straight away at the start of the second half, we were much quicker with our play and much more dangerous. And he was asked, of course, just following on from that Tillman incident, have you been involved in anything else like that in your career? No, never. Not everybody is going to agree with you, but I think when everybody sees back the full situation with the way that Malik goes down and he is unaware, that's what caused it. It's unfortunate it happened. I'd rather it didn't, but I felt we dealt with it in the right way. And I touched on, just reiterate, I think in the end, in the cold light heart of the day, I think that was the right decision made by Michael Beale, even though it was highly unpopular at the time at Ibrox, it's fair to say. Right, folks, I think that'll do us there. thank you to everyone interacting with the show this morning. It's greatly appreciated. Just a reminder, we've got that great giveaway at the moment. You can win 2 tickets to Rangers v Celtic for the League Cup final later on this month. All you have to do is sign up to the website for just £1. Head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe and you'll be entered into the hat for that cracking prize. And just a reminder as well, we've got, if you want to subscribe to our YouTube channel, it'd be greatly appreciated. Almost 11,500 of you now supporting us there, and that is totally free. So thank you very much to each and every one of you. We'll be back again tomorrow. I'll be back on with Stevie Clifford to talk all things Rangers. But until then, enjoy the rest of your Monday. Bye for now.